Regular programming will not be seen tonight, so we can bring you the following 5 News special presentation, Healing in the Heartland.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us on this Friday evening. I'm Jack Bowen.
And I'm Jennifer Eve. A month ago today, our city changed forever, and we all changed with it. In one moment, peace and tranquility were replaced with violence and confusion.
The bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah building left us stunned, saddened, and angry. In the past 4 weeks, we've seen the best and the worst of human nature. The bomb may have shaken us, but human kindness has strengthened us.
With the support of our nation, we are now moving on and beginning the process of making our city better and even stronger than ever before. We will never forget the grief, the lives that were lost, but we can't lose sight of the need now for healing in the Heartland. A big part of the healing process for Oklahoma City will be finding the answers to several questions.
Like, how will our city bounce back? How has our economy been affected? What impact will the bombing have on the MAPS project? How exactly will we rebuild? And finally, can we ever forget?
That's one thing that's very unlikely. Like the Kennedy assassination or the Challenger explosion, the bombing has become, unfortunately, a tragic part of who we are. So before we do look to the future, we need to take a few minutes tonight to look back to the day, that precise moment in time when a piece of our hearts was broken and Oklahoma City changed forever. It was a frightening, eerie sound. It rattled buildings, shook nerves, and shattered lives. Many, many lives. It seemed surreal then, but it still does now, the sound of a bomb exploding in Oklahoma City. Voices filled with disbelief and horror filled the air and the airwaves.
We could see that the explosion took away what appears to be nearly 1/3 of the building. The entire front is gone.
Downtown area is chaotic.
Apparently lots of casualties.
Thick plume of black smoke covers several blocks here downtown.
The major concern at this point is that there was a daycare center in the bottom of the building.
The visual images that followed confirmed our worst fears. Something terrible, something violent had happened in our city. Hundreds of injured people, confused and desperately looking for help, filled the streets. Most heartbreaking of all, the pictures of the children. They were hurt. They were crying. It didn't take long to realize many young lives would end before they really began. As the minutes passed, people rushed to help, co-workers and friends holding each other, hospital workers running to the injured. The threat of another bomb, and then more confusion. It just seemed like a nightmare that wouldn't end. It was hard to understand how any of this could be happening to all of us. As the hours passed, rescuers from all over the state and the nation dug through the rubble, frantically looking for survivors. We all held out hope for anyone holding on to life. Several hours after the bomb exploded, 15-year-old Brandy Liggins was pulled from the rubble alive. With more determination than ever, the rescuers kept digging, looking for more survivors. But the hours gave way to days, and then it became painfully clear there wouldn't be any more. As the rescuers looked for more bodies, the funerals began. HUD workers, Secret Service agents, secretaries, grandmothers, brothers, sisters, wives, and husbands. 167 people killed. 167 families torn apart. But through all the pain, the community came together. By the hundreds, the people of Oklahoma and the nation reached out to help. Some gave their time, a shoulder to cry on, a hand to hold. Many others gave their money, even their belongings. Thousands gave their prayers. And now, 1 month later, together, we begin to rebuild our city, our foundation has been shaken, but our faith in each other strengthened.
There is no way to look back at the months since the bombing without remembering all the lives that have been lost.
You know, it's hard to imagine, but 167 innocent people died.
Name after name, the list goes on and on and on. So many people, so little sense to it all. While some of their lives were short, there is a poignant story behind each and every one.
Each person left behind a family and close friends. As we heal, we remember them. Jane Braden now gives us a brief glimpse into some of the lives that were lost.
In an instant, Oklahoma gasped. As we realized what happened, the pain was so great, we became numb. It was the unbelievable, the unthinkable, the unimaginable. Torn from us were our children, our parents, sisters, dear friends, husbands, brothers, wives, our babies. Bailey Allman, age 1.
The family called her Miss Bailey. She was just starting to walk. She turned 1 the day before she died.
Mickey Maroney, age 50.
He was a Secret Service agent. His life was on the line all the time. He was the soul of the 1964 college football championship team from the University of Arkansas.
Linda McKinney, 47.
They called her the mother of the Secret Service office.
Colton Smith, age 2. Chase Smith, age 3.
Playful brothers who wanted to be together all the time. The last thing Colton told Mommy as she dropped them off at the daycare was, "Mommy, I love you."
Catherine Ridley, 24.
She had a baby just 4 months ago. She was just starting a new life with the Job Corps. She just happened to be in the street in front of the federal building.
Donna Luster, 43.
She was killed with her husband, Robert. They were just getting some paperwork finished up. Their 6 children are now orphaned.
Gilberto Martinez, 35.
He ministered an Hispanic church. A member needed help with Social Security that day. The last of his 5 children was born 13 days before he died.
Dana Cooper, 24.
She became director of the daycare in the federal building just 3 weeks earlier. She was so glad she could work near her little boy.
Christopher Cooper, 2.
Mama worked at his daycare. The last words Daddy heard that day from Christopher were, "I love you."
Anita Hightower, 27.
She moved to Oklahoma City to care for a sick aunt. She worked for Job Corps across the street.
Susan Farrell, age 37.
An attorney for housing and urban development, in Susan's eyes, everyone was equal. Her eyes would light up on the dance floor.
Calvin and Peola Battle.
They were just visiting the Social Security office. She'd never leave his side. She was the heart of the family.
Charlotte Thomas, 43.
She worked for the Social Security office 17 years. Her family said, if love could have saved you, you never would have died.
Michael Carrillo, 44.
He loved the highway administration, his kids, and the Beatles.
Ricky Tomlin, 46.
Michael's best friend, full of laughter. He and his wife just celebrated their 25th anniversary together.
Elisha and Aaron Coverdale.
They loved The Lion King, The Power Rangers, and Barney. Aaron's favorite song was Jesus Loves Me.
Retta Long.
She loved the theater, started teaching children, and ended teaching adults like herself with visual disabilities how to live with it.
Clarence Wilson, 49.
One of the first blacks to graduate OU's pharmacy school. He was a city councilman and a chief counsel for HUD. He leaves a wife and son.
Rebecca Anderson, 37.
The nurse who didn't have to go downtown that day. She put others before herself. She would have been married a year next July.
Wanda Howell, 34.
She was excited about her job in the daycare center in the federal building. 2 daughters are left behind.
Kayla Titsworth, age 3.
Playful, mischievous, a beautiful little angel.
Tyler Eves.
Just 8 months old.
Tevin Garrett.
16 months old. He was so young to have a best friend.
Dominic London Johnson, 2.
His best friend Tevin also attended America's Kids Daycare.
Ashley Eccles.
Missed daycare that day, only to go with her grandparents to the Social Security office. She wanted Mommy to fix her hair especially pretty that day.
Gabriel Bruce.
He was 3 months old. He had gone with Grandma to the Social Security office. He was a lovable baby.
Peachland Bradley.
She went with baby brother and Grandma to get the baby's Social Security card. She was buried on her 4th birthday.
In an instant of hatred and crushing rubble, they died. But they live within us, because now we're the keepers of their smiles, their love, their dreams. Jane Braden, 5 News.
Mixed with all the pain in the past month have been so many tears. We all hurt as we think about those we knew and those we never had a chance to know. Photojournalist Gary Wolf has this tribute.
I'm gonna live my life like every day's the last, without a simple goodbye. It all goes by so fast, and now that you're gone, I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. Gonna open my eyes and see for the first time I've let go of you like a child letting go of his kite. There it goes, up in the sky. There it goes, beyond the clouds, for no reason why. I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. Gonna look back in vain, see you standing there, when all that remains is just an empty chair. And now that you're gone, I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. There it goes, up in the sky. There it goes, beyond the clouds, for no reason why. I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now.
In the awful hours after April 19th, we waited for the miracle we simply couldn't find. We hoped and prayed rescuers would find a survivor, not another victim. We looked at the pictures of children who were hurt, lying so still in their hospital beds, and we hurt for them. But out of those rooms have come miracles all their own, and some remarkable stories of healing.
And Christopher is now got severe burns on the face and everywhere. But is still the luckiest baby in the entire daycare center.
Christopher Wynn, lucky He suffered severe injuries to his brain, heart, and lungs. He spent 2 weeks in a coma. Doctors worried. In his room, carrying messages from strangers and a bicycle, a final gift from a daycare buddy, Elijah Coverdale. Elijah and his brother Aaron did not survive. The Coverdales wanted Chris to have it. After 2 weeks in a coma, Christopher woke up, amazing his church family and his doctors. They say he's going to be just fine. His mother knows why.
And I think this is the answer. Many people been praying for Christopher too. This is true answer. This is what it, result of all those prayers for all the people in the United States, friends and relatives.
A gold cross is a precious symbol of new life for Nancy Ingram. This year's Mother's Day gift from her 2 daughters.
I didn't think I was going to make it. I really didn't. But I prayed a lot. I said to him, I'll cry. Not this way. And that's all I could do, just not this way, God. Because I don't have any fear of dying. But I wouldn't want to die like that.
When the bomb exploded, Nancy was talking to a friend. Then she was trapped under concrete. Survivors had a tough time getting her out. She needs a walker to get around, but now she feels so fortunate. And who could ever forget this picture? Dr. Gary Massad tried to get Dana Bradley out from underneath the rubble. He had to amputate her leg in order to free her. Dana's 2 children and her mother died there. Dana's doing much better now. She's in a wheelchair. She and her sister Felicia, also out of the hospital, will try to go on.
I'm taking with PJ an inch at a time. I mean, any news, if it's not bad news, it's good news, because the longer that he's on the ventilator and his lungs are improving, the better chance of surviving. And he's going to survive.
PJ Allen, 20 months old, so young to face this kind of struggle. His lungs were badly burned from the heat and the smoke. He'll be in ICU at least another month, in and out of the hospital until Thanksgiving. It's a long road ahead for PJ, but he has a lot of people pulling for him. 2 women found themselves on a mission a few days ago. They were looking for their hero to say thanks.
I couldn't even picture your face.
I couldn't picture yours either.
Glenda Riley met Officer Rod Hill in a moment of panic. She and her friend, Rhonda Griffin, were trapped on the 7th floor. The fire truck ladders weren't tall enough. Then, word of another bomb scare. Hope fading fast until they saw Rod Hill. He walked the women out across a dangerous ledge outside the windowsill. Then they were safe.
Oh, thank you for coming up there after us.
Here. Okay, hang on.
Joseph Weber is acting like most 2-year-olds these days, and Dawn and Dan Weber couldn't be more pleased. Dan worked at the federal courthouse next door. He was cut by flying glass, but he ran outside to find his son. Joseph was critically hurt. His arm broken, both eardrums ruptured, his jaw snapped.
What we think happened is that the blast knocked him unconscious immediately, and if he's having any emotional problems, it's from the time he spent in the hospital. You know, children just don't like hospitals.
Yeah.
And when he woke up, he couldn't talk, he couldn't see, and he couldn't hear. And he was in this place, and he just, you know, and that, a lot of children go through that, and he'll get over that.
Every day is Thanksgiving at our house, but at the same time, every day we remember his playmates, which is, it's just terrible, you know, that only so few made it. And just incredibly thankful and try to pray for their families.
Say hi, Brandon. Hi, Brandon. Hi, honey.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi, there's my big boy.
The Denny family needed prayers, both children caught in the blast. You can still see cuts on Rebecca's swollen cheeks, her left arm still in a cast. Her big brother, Brandon, hasn't left his hospital room for a month. He was so sick with a brain injury, but he's so much better now. A hat covers the scars that map his scalp. His blue eyes seem almost transfixed until Daddy decides he's seen enough of that.
Rebecca's going to tickle you, baby.
Tickle your belly button.
It's almost imperceptible, but then you catch a glimpse once again, the beginnings of a smile.
So good to see you smiling, babe.
Yes, it is.
Pretty soon we're going to be out of here. Don't forget. And we got baseball and Disneyland and all kinds of good stuff.
I'm excited. I'm really glad that this is happening. I'm really glad that I'm going to get to go.
Pamela Briggs left her hospital room to the sounds of pomp and circumstance. Pam suffered severe internal injuries in the blast, but the single mother of two wanted to realize her dream, getting her diploma as she graduates from OU. But she was still sick, and the hot Oklahoma sun wore down her will. The pain took over. She wondered if she could make it through.
I want to try to stay as long as I can, so you want this stuff out.
Then OU President David Boren decided to deliver her diploma personally.
Pam, we're so glad you're here.
They have survived the worst terrorist attack in our history. They are now showing us that when we needed miracles the most, they were there in these faces all along.
Through all the bad we've seen this past month, it is refreshing to see children like Christopher Wynn and Rebecca Denny healing and moving on, or Pam Briggs setting her sights on a new career.
Healing our hearts and souls, though, may take a little while longer, but the process has definitely begun. Ron Stahl has more.
They come as if on pilgrimage to the Murrah Building. They're quiet, respectful. There's a lot of hand-holding. There are a lot of children. Most are seeing a sight they've only seen on the news. Some are revisiting a nightmare.
I worked down here for 4 days with the National Guard.
Think you're ever going to get over it?
Nope. I don't think anybody will get over it.
While we grieve and hurt and mourn on the one hand, and with a sense of hope and healing, we must also stop the hurt and stop the hate.
We feel like that now that this tragedy has evolved, we've got to go on. We've got to do what we were given to do and not be defeated by what a terrorist does to us.
There comes a time to heal, no matter how great the pain. And pain seems to cut through the lines here. The families who lost loved ones hurt, but so do people who didn't know anyone in the building.
I found it hard not having anybody directly involved with it, but you know, and answering questions to my kids about what happened and stuff. It's hard to go on from a normal everyday routine, but I think that's the biggest thing that people's got to do.
Just pull together and try to do all that we can, like volunteering or something like that, and help other people out. Really helps out a lot.
I mean, the whole nation's looking at us. We can serve as a role model to the whole country.
Healing the body will take time, but so will healing the soul, and spiritual healing has taken many forms. Do you think the healing's already started?
Oh yes, I think so. I think it started Sunday at the services when Billy Graham was speaking.
But healing is more than just hugging and helping others. The experts say it takes time, and the time is different for each of us. Some find comfort from just looking at the building. Others show their concern and feel better about it.
I think about it every night, and I wear my ribbon. I lost my ribbon, but I've got my little bracelet on. I keep this on all the time, and I've got my shirt.
Are we going to survive this?
Yeah. Oklahoma's strong. They've come together and shown that they can survive this. They can survive anything. They're strong people.
We're strong. We can go on. We can face everything. Got to find inner strength.
My fellow Americans, a tree takes a long time to grow, and wounds take a long time to heal. But we must begin
For Healing in the Heartland, I'm Ron Stahl.
Ron gave us a brief glimpse of the cards and letters that have been sent to Oklahomans. They number in the thousands. You know, one I remember had a heart on the front with a bandage over it. It was from a little girl who wanted us to know that she was sorry we were hurting.
That card symbolized a lot. In an unprecedented show of support, people from all over the country came to Oklahoma to put bandages on our hearts and our city. And the people of our community have come together like never before. We have stood side by side, helping those who needed us. In a way, we look at each other differently now, perhaps with even more compassion and understanding than we did before April 19th. We know that the person we bump into in the grocery line or pass on the street could very easily be a hero.
I would like you to know that I'm thinking about you. I don't really know how you feel, but I do know that you are sad.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face.
We're thinking of you in every way. I'm sorry about the Oklahoma City thing, but I hope you're all right.
You've been content to let me shine. You always walked a step behind.
I saw them standing there and they looked like angels of mercy, and they were.
I was the one with all the glory.
We looked at those signs, we looked at those cards. We will never, ever forget.
You're the one with all the strength. Only a face without a name.
I think there's a little bit more work to be done. I'd like to stay.
I never once heard you complain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
I wish this did not happen. Whenever I go to bed, I think of you guys and everybody else. I'm so, so sorry.
It's been one unbelievable situation. I know that a lot of you have been here with us the whole time, and what those men and women did in that building, it's phenomenal.
It might have appeared to go
Even moms and dads need hugs because they lost their children. And so they need hugs for their children.
Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle.
In the past several minutes, we've talked about the healing process for our people, but our city needs to heal too.
A month ago, no one could have guessed how costly the explosion would be, certainly in terms of lives and then dollars. Many businesses have suffered heavy damage, others have been destroyed. But while some shops suffer, others are unexpectedly profiting. We have two stories now, the first from our Janet St. James. On April 19th, you could barely glimpse the damage through the people. Bleeding and wounded, hundreds of suffering faces all overshadowed this. Devastation unlike any ever seen in modern-day America. The powerful bomb blast completely gutted the federal building. Twisted blinds hang limply in La Baguette's shattered windows. Only a hint of wreckage inside hundreds of businesses.
At the front of there used to be that jewelry store, and over here is that downtown office machine. The rest of us finance companies.
Gus Gallanos owns what's left of several buildings on 6th Street. A buffet table and a few booths are the only surviving items in this pizza place. Upstairs in the Kirkpatrick Hotel, pulverized concrete and splintered doors clutter corridors. Everything looks exactly as it did moments after the explosion.
I can even sleep at night, you know, just thinking about what happened. And
when the Murrah building blew up just outside this window, one man was sleeping in a nearby bed. He fled in fear, leaving behind personal items, a wallet, clothes. In fact, 45 guests were staying here. All walked away. At $15 a night, though, it'll take thousands of guests to recoup financial losses.
And the claim is close to $2,700,000.
More than 400 people who lived in Regency Towers are still essentially homeless. Destruction inside calculates into the millions. Many escaped from the high-rise apartments with no more than the clothes on their back. They've only returned for one quick trip.
So I'm just going to start grabbing as many clothes as I can now.
People won't be allowed to move back in until August. In fact, the explosive shock laid waste to structures within 5 square miles. In all, 333 buildings are damaged. 25 can never be occupied again. 10 collapsed outright. Safeway Cab Company was one of them.
Well, this was the big garage where we worked on cars and stuff in there.
James Jackson opened his taxi service here a decade ago. Climbing through the cavern of his fallen garage, he tries joking about a car still trapped.
It'd make a good little pickup once we get it out of here. They can cut the top out of it, use it out to farm or something.
But this isn't funny. Concrete blocks crushed a row of cabs outside when the roof collapsed. Little here is salvageable. James Jackson still owes $70,000 on his mortgage and doesn't have any insurance.
What money I've got, I'm trying to stay in the business instead of cleaning this place up. I'm not going to quit.
For many shop owners, private insurance companies and federal disaster aid offers the only hope for rebuilding. Already, nearly $2 million federal dollars have been distributed for emergency repairs. That doesn't even put a dent in conservative damage estimates, though.
Essentially in the $300 million area, and that would include lost, of course, the property damage to the buildings, automobile damage, and lost business.
But the bomb has played havoc with more than businesses and livelihoods. Many places destroyed, including the federal building, are tax exempt. Still, assessors estimate Oklahoma County could lose nearly $100,000 in property taxes this year alone. And that number could rise. Some smaller companies can't be rebuilt. But many owners say they'll try anyway, even if it takes years. For Healing in the Heartland, I'm Janet St. James.
This is Patrick Elwood reporting. The Lumber Shed isn't exactly a new company. It's family-owned and has been since the doors opened back in 1936. Never in its 59 years of operation has it had a month like April 1995. More wood was loaded up and out in April than any one month before. Here's what we're talking about. For plywood sales, in February, the lumber shed sold 297 sheets. In March, 273. But then in April, 1,375 were purchased. That's 44,000 square feet of lumber, 6 times the average monthly amount. Remember, that's only plywood sales.
It was really crazy around here.
Company driver Danny Goggin.
Everybody was, I need 5 bundles of plywood, I need 2 bundles, and I didn't believe that there'd ever be enough.
Until more was brought in from out of town, there really wasn't enough.
Everything we had, we sent down there, not happy about it. It wasn't a real fun business to be involved in, but we were proud to be a part of it, though.
And 1 month later, they're still taking orders, piling up the lumber, and adding up the dollars.
Bittersweet business.
From the lumber yard, the wood comes here to downtown Oklahoma City, where it's used to board up the many countless windows blown away by the blast. But this is just some of the work going on outside of these buildings. There's plenty more going on inside, like at the Walker Stamp and Seal Company.
The place is badly damaged, and there are people hurt in this building, and it is bittersweet. It really is.
This is David Alexander, and these are his hands. They are the hands of a master electrician charged with putting back together what has been blown apart. David has a tall order to fill. He's twisting and cutting his way through hundreds of wires. He's been up and down this ladder so many times he's stopped counting.
About 3 weeks ago, they called me down here to start the work in here. The ceiling had fell, and some fans had fallen, some lights had came down.
Together with his son, the two have been working non-stop and under the watchful eye of company employees and customers. David says the bombing has been good for business, but bad for the soul.
I don't like to work like this. If I never worked again, I'd rather not under these conditions. I really don't like this type of work.
David says when he's done here, the glass guys will take over. That is, when they have time.
We're trying to keep up. It's just been really hard to get everybody taken care of, really.
That's understandable when you consider that every building within a square mile of the Murrah building was affected. Conservative estimates say it will take 6 months to repair every broken window.
See, we've already done the ground floor. Now we're doing the upper floors. So they put up with plywood for a while.
The average is 2 days at one site. So when they're done, this crew will move on to the next job. You don't have to look very far. There's one on every street corner. For Healing in the Heartland, I'm Patrick Elwood.
In the short run, it will take months to repair all the damage downtown, but there's more to the rebuilding process than meets the eye.
The bomb has had a very far-reaching impact on our city and our plans for the future. Projects like MAPS will almost certainly be affected, but city leaders are already looking ahead.
3 blocks from Ground Zero, some of the repair work on St. Paul's Cathedral is already underway. Salvaging everything possible from the past has a lot to do with planning downtown Oklahoma City's future from this point on. Across the street, Old Central High School, circa 1906, has been preserved in recent history by Southwestern Bell, which uses it for administrative office space. It's among a select group of historic downtown buildings getting a going-over by architects and engineers, coordinated and paid for by the National Park Service and National Trust for Historical Preservation.
Do you find a lot of things, even inside structurally, that aren't real noticeable right off?
Well, that's what you really try to do, is look at the building skeleton, the shell of it, because if that's intact and not disturbed, then there's really no reason not to save the building.
The good news is that they're finding many of the buildings they're looking at will survive. In the case of Old Central, the structures between it and the federal building absorbed most of the shock waves.
It looks like it's fairly fresh.
Well, it could well be if been some...
Because it's sitting here like that and shaking, you follow that crack all the way down.
Yeah, it could be some rocking, and that's not a major structural thing. It's just they have to grind out those joints and repoint it, mostly for maintenance. I don't think that's a hazard that's going to come down on the public. Take a look on the similar one over here.
Mel Green is a structural engineer who's worked in the aftermath of the numerous earthquakes in his home state of California and was also called to New York after the World Trade Center bombing.
I would encourage that the buildings be saved and rehabilitated so that the heritage of the state and of the city is retained. I think it's important to save it and preserve it so that our children and grandchildren can appreciate it. I think that's, if everything looked contemporary, life would be kind of boring. The fact that when you look across the downtown here, you see almost 100 years of buildings adds a certain dynamic and excitement to the visual image that we see in the city.
Still, history will have to take some losses in the bombing vicinity on the north side of downtown. Chamber of Commerce President Charles Van Rysselberg says part of Oklahoma City's salvation, though, in getting through all this, will be several things that were already in the works prior to the bombing.
You'll recall that just in the last 5 months alone, we had announcements that the Skirvin Hotel was changing hands, and $24 million is going to go in there. The Medallion Hotel has a new owner, and they're putting $12 million there. And of course, all of that is in a response to the MAPS projects. There's renewed confidence that the MAPS projects will make us a bigger and more significant convention city. And therefore, those hotel announcements were made.
But much more than the $250 million or so worth of glittering MAPS projects, Van Rysselberg expects the biggest impact to be from the images of brave, dedicated, generous Oklahomans dealing with the bombing crisis with blood, sweat, and tears. Images broadcast to the world.
A bright spot from this would be the fact that the world now sees the kind of people that live in Oklahoma, that they're very caring and that there's quality here that perhaps many of them are not familiar with. And we think that companies are going to say that I want that kind of labor force for my company, and are going to be interested in looking at us much more closely as a place to make an investment.
And Governor Keating told us he thinks those who died would be pleased to know those of us left behind are carrying on their dreams.
I think the Mickey Maronis, I think the Susan Farrells and the Clarence Wilsons who died, the people that I knew very well, and others that I didn't know so well, would want to see some good come of this. I don't think any of them would want us to be bitter and nasty and antagonistic and basically set on the past. I think that they would want to see some good come of their lives, some good of the fact that they gave their lives for their country, because the attack on that building was an attack on the U.S. government. So what do we do? Well, I think we ought to follow the advice of Henry Kravis, who's one of the richest men in the United States, who said Oklahoma City is in a position to have a world competition, if not a national competition, to determine what we should do with the north end of downtown, what we should do with the Murrah site. Should we expand a park, a memorial park, an urban park into surrounding blocks? How, with a combination of maps and the opportunity of rebuilding in that area, can we make Oklahoma City not only a fine city, but a world-class fine city? You're talking about potentially, potentially $385 million of redevelopment of downtown Oklahoma City. There isn't a city in the United States that's doing that, of Oklahoma City's size. No cities are even in a position to do that. So to piggyback maps onto a north downtown redevelopment, literally a national competition. This is something that Kravis was enthusiastic about. He said one thing that no one will do today is to turn Oklahoma City down for anything. Everyone will donate art, they will donate their labors, architectural services, they'll donate their best ideas to the memories of those who died in the worst terrorist attack in American history.
Hopefully, the scheduled implosion of the Murrah building next Tuesday will also mark something of an official beginning for a state, a nation, and a world to strike back against the evil that did this, to strike back constructively with a plan for good.
Oklahomans are looking to the future. We're going on, we're persevering. An 8-year-old girl from Oklahoma City has helped deliver that message to people all across the country. Through her voice, she's touched millions and helped all of us heal.
The whole front of the federal building is gone. We've got about 4 or 5 criticals right now and about 100 walking wounded. And they're raising a lot of blood. I'm trying to triage them out now.
Somebody's down to their last dime. Somebody's running out of too far from here.
Children like Michaela, rescue workers like John Hanson, leaders like Governor Keating, they have all represented our state well since the bombing.
During the past month, the eyes of the nation have been opened to how wonderful our people and our state truly are.
As Jane Braden explains, we now have an incredible image, one we deserve.
The Dust Bowl days of the 30s were Oklahoma's bleakest days. Steinbeck wrote about it, Hollywood put it to film, and the nation remembered us that way.
That wind's fixing to do something. Sure it is. Always is this time of year.
Unfortunately, Oklahoma kind of has a reputation for being a vast desert wasteland, and people here don't wear shoes and can barely read, you know, and just kind of, I think a lot of that's been changed. You know.
There's a new pride in Oklahoma, but at what a cost. When the bomb exploded, it came natural to Oklahoma people to reach out, to give, to care, to love. So natural that we were shocked when the rest of the world was surprised.
If it could be said that this was the finest hour, one should never have to prove it this way. But it was the finest hour for your state, for your people, and I guess in terms of the response in this country, for this country.
Here, what you see is like an immediate sense of solidarity amongst people, sense of community, very strong.
The world noticed a place they never thought about before. Before that blackest day in our history, Oklahoma had no image nationally. Certainly not internationally. It wasn't a bad image, it was just no image. But in that flash of fury, everything changed.
People are saying, gosh, that Oklahoma City, they know of us. They probably got atlases out and found out where we were. But they saw the way our people reacted to this thing. And they say, that must be a wonderful place to have people like that in it.
While the world watched our horror, they also saw our hearts. Businesses are taking a second look at us now for location here. One company, in fact, who took us off their list for possible relocation before the bombing, added us back on after looking at the kind of workforce our people make. Something also changed in the hearts of Oklahomans.
It showed that, you know, people do care, you know, care about each other and what happens to each other.
I feel more pride, actually, of having lived here for 4 years, because now that the entire country has seen what Oklahomans are like and they understand the attitude of people out here. You know, it's not just Oklahoma, where's that? Is it an island somewhere, you know? Somebody asked me that once.
I've always known the kindness and the love and the generosity of Oklahomans has been tremendous, but I think the depth of it, of my understanding of the love has changed. I've never seen so much compassion as I have, and the love.
It's been a time of great grief and hurting, but it's also been a time of new discovery about the best within us and the land we belong to, Oklahoma. For Healing in the Heartland, I'm Jane Braden.
The wonderful way Oklahomans have reacted to the bombing hasn't escaped anybody's notice. As Jane said, people all over the nation now see us just a little differently. They've seen us react to a disaster, and now they're supporting us as we heal.
One person in particular has paid close attention to our state since the bombing, President Clinton. We told him about this special presentation and asked him if he would like to deliver a message to the people of our state. He did not hesitate. Here now is the message the President of the United States wanted all of you to hear tonight.
On April 19th, people all across America and all around the world were wrenched from whatever they were doing and drawn to Oklahoma City. We were all gripped by the horror and the humanity. And in the days that followed, we found not only sorrow, but reasons to take heart. Because all of you, the brave people of Oklahoma, made it very clear to the entire nation and to all the world that the very deeds those who sow terror use to divide us bring us closer together. You stood up for each other, you leaned on each other, you gave hope to each other. You struggled and you prayed and you wept together. And you will persevere and triumph together. And we'll be right by your side until the work is done. As I said when I had the privilege to pray with you at the memorial service a few Sundays ago, we'll do all we can to help you heal the injured and rebuild your city. We will bring to justice those who did this evil thing. In the weeks ahead, I know our nation will continue to look to Oklahoma City to honor the memory of the victims of the tragedy, to honor the work of the countless heroes of Oklahoma, those who embody the unbreakable spirit of our nation. People like the hundreds of rescue workers who defied rain and cold and heartache and the very real risk to their own lives to push on in the search for victims. People like those who left work to volunteer at shelters and aid centers. People like the thousands who lined up to give food or clothing or simple comfort, to give whatever they could. And people like the brave families of the victims who somehow found the courage and strength to hold together and to endure. That is the real Oklahoma. That is the real America. Bound together in a way that people like those who committed this terrible crime can never understand. Bound up in the love of our country, in the strength we find in each other, and in our hope for tomorrow. So we will all get through this. The dogwood Hillary and I planted in honor of your children is still growing right outside the White House. Its roots are spreading, its flowers have bloomed and will bloom again. So it will be for you. I'd like to close with words written by the poet W.H. Auden a little over 50 years ago. In the deserts of the heart, let the healing fountain start. In the prison of his days, teach the free man how to praise. America praises the people of Oklahoma tonight. Thank you for the example you have set this past month, and God bless you all.
During the last hour, we know we've taken you on an emotional journey from the horror of the explosion to the sorrow of the deaths. But we hope we've also shown you that from the evil has come a triumphant spirit.
We as a community can overcome anything, and we will heal. We are stronger now, bound together by indestructible ties. Oklahomans have risen to the occasion, and like a phoenix, our city will rise from the ashes. We are, in fact, healing in the Heartland.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We leave you now with one last tribute to those who helped, those who hurt, and those who are lost, the angels among us. For everyone at 5 News, I'm Jack Bowen.
I'm Jennifer Eve. Good night.